Welcome to EDU World Space.
Here we know that the buoyancy force is equaling the mass of the fluid displaced times g, and then according to mass, it would simply be the density of that, whatever it is, times the volume of this displaced times g. We know that the force of gravity of the fluid acts at the center of mass is known. The force of gravity at any object acts at the center of mass. On this fluid now, there are only two forces on the fluid, and the system itself is at equilibrium. If the system itself is at equilibrium, then the forces have to be equal in magnitude and in opposite directions. And we know that the force is not itself is in static equilibrium. Therefore, it is not rotating. Because it is not rotating, that means that they both have to. The net torque is essentially zero. And if the net torque is essentially zero, and there are only two forces on the fluid, one of them acting at the center of mass, we know the force of gravity at the center of mass. Therefore, the buoyancy force needs to act at the center of mass in order for this system to be in translational equilibrium, but also in static equilibrium. So that is how we would prove that the buoyancy force actually does indeed act at the center of mass. This would be our answer for part A. Now, for part B, they're asking us essentially, how is stability achieved? Well, stability is achieved, we can in these diagrams. We know that if the buoyancy force were to act above the center of mass, we could say that if the force acts at point above center of mass, we can then say that we're going to reduce the tilt. And this would it tends to reduce the tilt because, as you can see, this would cause somewhat of a clockwise rotation in a sense, and we could then say that the tilt would be reduced. So if the center was below if the buoyancy force act at point below the center of mass, we can then say that this would actually increase the tilt. This would tend to increase the tilt because the net torque, because this would increase the net torque about the center of mass. And so, and you can see this in this diagram. So essentially, you can say that stability is achieved when the buoyancy force is above, you can say, the center of gravity. And this would be our answer for part B. That is the end of the solution. Thank you for watching.